Hello, welcome to Overpaid Over the Bar video with me, Anthony, looking back at game week 20. We're already into the second half of the season and game week 21, and these game weeks have come so thick and fast. This is the fourth deadline in about 10 days, and it's my fourth video in about that time. So I'm looking forward to a bit of a break after this game week. But it was an interesting game week. A lot of people found this game week quite tricky in terms of favorite players that people have brought in, like Ekitike not doing so well. Then there was the doubt over Declan Rice. And so some people benched him, some people transferred him out. And that was a bit of frustration for a lot of people. Let's first of all look at how my points went for the game week. Um, so you can see I got 56 points. Very good return given the average was 42, and a lot of people around me didn't have Bruno Guimaraes, and people have got rid of Thiago, who went and scored a hat trick at Everton. Hardly predictable, but although to be fair, I have been watching Thiago in recent weeks, and I did think that his threat from open play was a lot more than people were saying. They were saying just a penalty taker, plays for a rubbish team like Brentford, but he always looks pretty sharp in front of goal to me. So I didn't sell him. I was rewarded with a massive 17 points. Um, and Ekitike, of course, not being in the Liverpool squad meant that that really paid off in terms of overall rank this week. So my overall rank went up to 35k. Bruno Guimaraes again got a goal that he shouldn't be getting. He's outperforming his expected goals, generally expected points quite seriously at the moment, and I'm not counting on that going on. But with Newcastle's next two fixtures being Leeds at home and Wolves away, I'm certainly not getting rid of him or Anthony Gordon in the next two game weeks. After that, at least one of them's got to go. But for now, very happy about that. The player I brought in was Diogo Dalot. Um, didn't keep a clean sheet. Um, sorry, Gabriel was the Dalot I brought in the week before. Gabriel I brought in for this game week, who gave the ball away for the first goal that they conceded in this game week, and then promptly scored an equaliser directly at Bournemouth to make up for it. So people with Arsenal defenders, if they didn't have Gabriel, didn't do so well. That was another plus point for my rank. Timber ended up getting DEFCON, so he did get a small return of 3 points. Saka came on as a substitute, got a really nice assist for Declan Rice, and I don't think we should underestimate how much impact Saka's having on games because he played half of this game, comes on and puts a lovely assist there for Rice. So I although Declan Rice scored 17 points, or was it even more? I think it was even more. Then we shouldn't look at Saka and say, he's not producing because he actually is. It's just that he hasn't hauled, he hasn't scored a goal in a while. And so you can either stick with him and count on that, or you can go for Declan Rice. Now, the only thing I would say is that to buy either Thiago or Declan Rice this week is very much saying, I want the points they scored last week. And that is the way to lose at FPL. I'm not saying buying either of them is a bad idea. Of course, buying Declan Rice is a great idea. I'm just saying you're not going to get the returns they got last week if you buy them now. So if you've got a decent striker, and Thiago, say you've got Jared Bowen, for example, who's got decent fixtures, there's no need to sell him for Thiago. Um, Although maybe Thiago will carry on producing in the way that he has. So my overall rank up to 35k, extremely happy with that. Um, back really, back really up in dreamland as far as my overall ranks go. I have done 50k ranks before. I think three times in my fantasy football history. It would be fantastic to do it again. 100k rank is what I really regard as my target for the season. So I'm hitting that at the moment. A long way to go. There's a full 18 game weeks to go. Anything can happen in those 18 game weeks. But Arsenal Football Club um, have gone, what is it, 6 points clear at the top of the Premier League. And that really is amazing for them. I literally cannot see them dropping enough points. I predicted them to win the league at the start of the season. And I kind of cooled off on them recently. I thought Man City might do well over this group of intensive fixtures, but not a bit of it. Arsenal have been the team that's come out. And remember that Arsenal do not have to field full strength teams in the Champions League. They've already got enough points to get the 1 or 2 points they need to get through as a automatic qualifier for the knockout stages of the Champions League. So they really are at an advantage now in terms of their squad depth and Premier League fixtures because they can rest players in the Champions League. So, I mean, I don't see Arsenal dropping points anytime soon unless they seriously weaken themselves for whatever reason. Um, the only bad thing about this game week for me was that Enzo was on my bench. Uh, I really wasn't sure what to do in terms of who to make first sub. In the end, I made the mistake of not thinking Enzo could get something at Manchester City. With these midfield players, I've said it before, they get one goal and they can end up with 10, 11 points. For a striker, it's hard to do that unless you get 3 bonus points. But for the midfield players, they can get DEFCONs, excuse me, both Bruno Guimaraes and Enzo both got DEFCONs in this game week. Excuse me. Okay, so looking at the overpaid over the bar league, nobody scored a remarkable amount of points this week. Shout out to Keith, who got 72, but he did take, I mean, it was a very mixed game week for him because he made two extra transfers, which cost him eight points. So he actually scored 64. And he transferred out Thiago and Rice, I think, or at least Declan Rice, at least. So a very mixed game week for him, but doing very well. Excuse me. Right. This week's fixtures tomorrow, Tuesday, 6th of Jan. One game on Tuesday, West Ham Forest. West Ham are awful at Wolves. And Nuno is looking in a very tricky position. So I don't know what you do with that fixture. If you've got anybody for either team, I'd suggest you play them because West Ham at home to Forest, they could do something. Forest away at West Ham definitely could. Bournemouth Spurs. Spurs still looking shaky, and their fans are very much against Thomas Frank at the moment. So again, Bournemouth at home, not looking very good either. I'm not sure on that. I would play your Bournemouth defenders if you have them, but I think Spurs could score in that game. Brentford home to Sunderland. Sunderland were very good at Spurs again in the dying stages, could have won that game. And Brentford obviously somehow keep getting results. Crystal Palace against Aston Villa. All these games at 7:30 on Wednesday, which has 6 games at 7:30. Palace still looking a bit weak. Villa very much looking good still. So you might want to play your Villa asset sale or even buy one for that. Everton Wolves. We talked about Everton assets last week. They let themselves down against Brentford. Let's see how they do home to Wolves. Certainly, having defenders are worth having for that. Fulham Chelsea. I think Chelsea assets we've talked before. Their fixture run coming up is fantastic. You might want to get Enzo for that one. You might want to get another Chelsea player. Manchester City against Brighton. People are talking about getting rid of Phil Foden because he's been blanking so much. I've been saying that I'm not going to do that. I think at some point he's going to return nicely. So I'm hanging on to him. I'm hanging on to O'Reilly in defence. I might get rid of O'Reilly after this game week. I'm planning on not doing any transfers this week, just playing it exactly as I'm stood at the moment. So Man United at Burnley. Burnley really look more lackluster or more toothless every week. Manchester United have a stand-in manager replacing Amorim. Darren Fletcher will be in charge of Manchester United at Burnley. We don't know whether that will have a positive or negative effect on the players. Let's see. I would Obviously, if you've got Cunha, you might want to buy Cunha. Looking good for scoring goals. Certainly a very selfish player, which is what you need in FPL, even if sometimes he should pass when he doesn't. I've got Dallo, and I really don't like it anymore. I think they will concede at Burnley. They seem to concede in any way they can. Manchester United, Newcastle home to Leeds. Leeds have played a lot of fixtures. Obviously, all the teams have, but I think teams like Leeds suffer more because their squads are lighter. So I fancy Newcastle to win this, and I fancy them to score 2 or 3 goals in this. I'm going to keep Bruno Guimaraes and Anthony Gordon. I'm really hoping Anthony Gordon does well in this fixture because he's a nice differential. And then finally, the fixture of the game week is Arsenal Liverpool at 8 o'clock on Thursday. I mean, I don't see Liverpool really doing anything in this game. Arsenal were unlucky in the end to lose to Liverpool at Anfield with that fantastic Szoboszlai free kick in the first few weeks of the season. And they certainly matched Liverpool man for man across the field during the 90 minutes. In this one, I'd be surprised if Liverpool stop Arsenal from scoring, and I'd be surprised if Liverpool can win that game at Arsenal. I think a draw would be a fantastic result for Liverpool, but I think Arsenal will win it. So I don't see a reason to rest any or bench any Arsenal defenders or anything like that. Although you might want to, if you've got good subs on your bench, you might want to play one of those instead of an Arsenal defender. I'm not certain I will do that. Okay, so uh, one thing I wanted to say was that remember, after this game week, there's a 10-day gap before the next game week. And I know a lot of people are thinking about playing wild cards and that kind of thing. Remember, there are FA Cup and League Cup fixtures. If we're talking about the League Cup semi-finalists, then remember that the players will play a couple of games. I mean, maybe they'll be rested. For example, Manchester City are playing Exeter City, the best team in the world, on Saturday. So remember that Manchester City will probably underestimate the mighty Exeter City and will probably rest 7 regular first team starters for that one, you'd imagine. So we're perhaps not looking at them, but we're looking at a couple of other teams where they might pick up an injury or something like that. So be careful with playing a wild card before this game week. By all means, play a wild card after this game week because you then have the 10 days to mess around with it as the days go on. But I think playing a wild card for this one is a bit of a mistake because you don't really know how things are going to pan out over this game week, and you know the Chelsea run of fixtures is coming up, which I'm sure people are thinking about in terms of wildcarding. And I know some people now want to get rid of Ekitike, they want to get rid of Saka. I think just hold on, don't panic. I mean, just because there were these massive hauls for other players last week, it doesn't mean it's going to happen again this week. So, and also I would say avoid wildcard if you possibly can. Don't use it at all. Don't throw it out now because later in the season, when we get the double game weeks and stuff like that, it's much more useful, and we just don't know how things are going to go in those months ahead. I know I'm sitting on a team that has basically got no injuries and scoring points for most of it, so it's a luxury for me to say that. But I would just be careful if you're thinking about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, which is one of my favorite expressions in English because I'd never imagined where it came from. What happened to these people in the 18th century or whenever it first was used? What were they doing throwing babies out with the bathwater? I mean, anyway, yeah, throwing babies, don't do it. That's all I'm saying on my streams this week. Don't throw babies. Okay, so uh, good luck with your game week this week. Good luck for your football team, unless they're Manchester City on Saturday playing Exeter, because that's my team's next game is Manchester City away, and we don't say that very often. So good luck for your football team if they're playing. Good luck to your fantasy team. Thank you enormously for watching this stream. Please, it's not a stream. I keep calling it a stream. It's a video. I kept calling it a stream 3 times this last week, and it isn't a stream because nobody's watching it live because it isn't available to watch live. And even if it was, nobody would watch it live. Thank you for watching. If you got this far, I think only Keith does that. So well done, Keith, for watching. I think Adam might sometimes do that too. So well done, Adam, for watching or listening, and see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.